The defining cruelty of the home inspection scam is that the perpetrator doesn't rely on lying about the house. They rely on lying about authority and expertise to create a crisis where none exists.
That quote, it really gets right to the heart of a pretty sophisticated and, honestly, devastating kind of fraud. You see, this isn't just about a shoddy repair job. No, this is a system of psychological manipulation. It's designed to take your single largest investment and turn it into a source of fear and ultimately financial extraction. So in this explainer, we are going to forensically deconstruct this system piece by piece so you can recognize it, dismantle its power, and defend yourself against it.
We're going to approach this almost like a case file, moving through 6 distinct sections. We'll start with the core vulnerability, then analyze the psychological toolkit they use against you, break down their entire attack framework, and then, and this is the important part, we'll build your defensive protocol, and cap it all off with a protective mantra to keep you safe.
All right, let's begin with what I call the central paradox of this whole situation. The very moment you decide to be a responsible homeowner or a smart buyer, the moment you invest your own money to hire a professional inspector, that is precisely the moment you become most financially vulnerable to this specific type of criminal.
I mean, think about your mindset here. You hire an inspector expecting them to find something, right? Nobody wants to shell out several $100s just for a report that says, yep, everything's perfect. You're paying for their diligence, for a critical eye to spot the issues you can't. Well, the scammer, they understand this better than anyone. They don't actually need a real problem in the house because they know you've already paid them to find one. So they just subvert your good intentions and exploit that expectation to create a crisis out of thin air.
So this is really the core question we've got to answer. How does a proactive, totally responsible decision become the very doorway through which an attack is launched? Well, it all starts with understanding the unique psychological environment of the home itself. To really get the how, we first have to understand the emotional landscape. You know, homeownership isn't just a financial transaction, it's deeply psychological. It's about security, it's about stability, it's shelter. Scammers don't just see a house, they see a nexus of fear and hope, and that is exactly what they target.
This toolkit right here, it maps the universal anxieties of pretty much any property owner. The financial stakes are absolutely immense. For most of us, it's the biggest purchase we'll ever make. Then you've got that primal fear of a hidden catastrophic flaw, a cracked foundation, toxic mold, something that could just wipe out your life savings. You are completely reliant on an expert to translate the house's secrets for you, to see what you can't. And of course, during a sale, everyone is under a ton of pressure to close the deal fast. These aren't just feelings, they are the levers that a scammer pulls. They systematically weaponize every single one of them against you.
So, with that psychological stage set, we can now do a forensic breakdown of the scam's operational flow. And believe me, this isn't random. It's a predictable, 3-stage system designed for one single purpose: extraction. Understanding this flow is so crucial. Stage 1 is all about authority capture. The scammer shows up looking the part. Clipboard, specialized tools, throwing around technical jargon. The goal is to establish themselves as the unquestionable expert. Stage 2 is crisis manufacturing. This is when they discover a severe, urgent, and usually invisible problem. Faulty wiring behind a wall or a structural weakness in the crawlspace. They manufacture panic and stress the need for immediate action. And finally, stage 3 is coerced extraction. They funneled you directly to their trusted partner and accomplice to perform expensive, totally unnecessary work. Each stage builds logically on the last, tightening that trap around you. Okay, let's pause right here, because this is the pivot point of the entire scam, the announcement of the fake catastrophic problem. It's the exact moment the inspector transitions from being an evaluator into an antagonist. They use that authority they've captured to introduce intense fear, and they do it deliberately to overload your ability to think clearly. Everything that follows is built on the panic that's generated in this one moment.
So right after creating the problem, the inspector immediately offers you the solution. They'll say something like, look, this is bad, but I know a guy. He's the only one I trust for this kind of thing, and he can be here this afternoon. And that's the flip. The inspector ceases to be an inspector and becomes a salesman. They create an explicit conflict of interest by referring you directly to their partner.
And this combination, an urgent, catastrophic problem, plus a ready-made, immediate solution, this creates what's called a psychological choke point. It's designed specifically to make seeking a second opinion feel slow or risky or even impossible. They create an isolation effect,
making you feel like this inspector and their recommended partner are your only path to safety. This is how they stop you from stepping outside their closed system for verification. So now that we've seen the mechanics of the attack, let's look under the hood at the cognitive science. Why is this framework so effective? Well, it's because it's not just targeting your wallet. It's targeting specific, predictable glitches in human psychology. First up, they weaponize something called the authority heuristic. This is our mental shortcut to just trust people who look like they know what they're doing. It's the reason you'd listen to someone in a white lab coat, even if you don't know their qualifications. The professional polo shirt, the expensive-looking moisture meter, the confident use of technical terms, it's all a costume. It's designed to trigger this bias, and it effectively suppresses your natural skepticism and encourages you to just outsource your critical thinking to them. And next, they layer on intense fear conditioning. By introducing a threat that sounds absolutely catastrophic, like imminent foundation failure or dangerous electrical fault, they trigger a primal panic response. Your brain gets flooded with stress hormones. Now, this isn't about persuasion. It's about inducing cognitive overload. They want to create so much fear and anxiety that you're no longer capable of calm, rational evaluation. You're just forced to seek the fastest path to safety, not the best one.
And this is the result of that 1-2 punch. The combination of manufactured authority and weaponized fear effectively shuts down what psychologists call your System 2 thinking. Now think of System 2 as the part of your brain that does your taxes. It's slow, deliberate, and rational. The scam forces you into System 1 thinking. That's the part of your brain that instinctively makes you duck when a ball is thrown at your head. And what does that gut reaction tell you when you're faced with a huge threat and an expert offering a solution? It tells you to take the solution right now.
Okay, we have dissected the anatomy of the attack. Now, we shift from analysis to action. And this is the most important part of this entire explainer, your defensive protocol. These are the clear, actionable steps that will completely dismantle the scammer's framework and give you a safe exit. This is it. This is the single most reliable indicator of a scam. A legitimate, ethical inspector's job ends when they deliver the report. That's it. Their role is to identify potential issues, not to sell you solutions. The moment an inspector recommends a specific person or a specific company to do the repairs, a massive conflict of interest has just been created. This is the bright red line that should never ever be crossed.
I mean, the distinction is just undeniable. An ethical inspector provides a report. Their job is done. A scam operator manufactures a crisis and pushes their partner. An ethical inspector recommends further evaluation by a qualified specialist, a structural engineer, a master electrician. A scam operator demands immediate action from their buddy. And an ethical professional will always encourage second or even third opinions. A scammer will do everything they can to prevent you from getting verification. So, what are your non-negotiable defense actions? First, you have to enforce the Mandatory Non-Referral Rule. This is absolute. Never, under any circumstances, hire a contractor recommended by your home inspector. Full stop. This isn't about being cynical. It's about breaking the financial incentive that powers this entire scam. Second, do your homework before they ever set foot on your property. Don't rely on their website or their business card. You need to go to official, independent sources like the American Society of Home Inspectors website or your state's official licensing board and verify that their credentials are real and in good standing.
This right here is your shield. I want you to memorize this exact phrase. When the scammer presents their crisis and offers their solution, you calmly and firmly deploy this statement. Thank you for the information. I will be obtaining 3 independent repair quotes from contractors I sourced myself. This one sentence achieves 3 things instantly. It breaks their control, it shatters their isolation effect, and it signals that you cannot be coerced. A legitimate inspector will totally respect it. A scammer, well, they'll often become agitated, which is all the confirmation you need. We've walked through the paradox, the psychology, the attack framework, and the defensive protocol. So now let's distill all of this down into one simple, powerful idea that you can carry with you.
This is the protective mantra. It's simple, it's memorable, and it encapsulates the entire defense strategy. The friend of the inspector is the conflict of interest. The second opinion is your mandatory independent verification. If you remember nothing else from this explainer, remember this. It's the key to protecting your finances, your property, and your peace of mind.